Okay, all right. Thank you all for joining us again. This is Kim Crowa, Braintree Chamber of Commerce. We are talking with the district council candidates today, and we've spoken with District 2 and District 1. And now I want to thank District 3 candidates for joining us, Elizabeth Maglio and Thomas Bose. We have an intro and a closing from each, and we'll have a series of questions in between. We'll be posting the videos afterward on social media and on our YouTube channel. I am going to put in the chat information on those, and I ask you to check out the Braintree Chamber of Commerce as a member-run and volunteer board organization supporting businesses. And we thank our members and our sponsors for supporting us. And I ask you to check out those channels, the website and the Facebook, to find out more about us. So because we are running short on time in between with 30 minutes, I'm going to just move right along. And for the introduction, I am going to ask Tom Bose to please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Kim, and thank you to the members of the Chamber for hosting this afternoon. My name is Tom Bose. My wife and I have been residents of the town of Braintree for the last 30 years. We've raised 2 children, along with 2 nieces that we have. Since the impacts of COVID-19 and the effects it's taken on the town financially and to the school specifically, I've decided to run for the District 3 seat on the council. I feel that based on my past experience on the council and dealing with the budget, I'm a strong candidate for the job in hand. As you know, I was a strong voice and worked with folks in the past, and I will continue to be a strong voice for East Braintree. And I thank you for inviting us this afternoon.
All right, thank you. And Elizabeth?
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. Elizabeth Maglio, I live in District 3. I've been living here since 2011 when I married my husband, Stephen. I am currently in academia, but this is after 25 years of nonprofit leadership and public policy experience. The unique vantage points I feel like my professional career has given me is an understanding for policy and the decision-making process, and the importance of understanding systems in order to affect change. I've had the good fortune of wearing many different hats throughout my professional career. As a policy type of social worker, I've had leadership roles at organizations with budgets that ranged from 5 million to 50 million, with 50 to 1,000 employees, serving 500 to 10,000 individuals, families, and children. Throughout my career, I've worked in the legislative arena. I've filed legislation. I've been in charge of fundraising events and grants management. I've overseen IT vendors, determined a revenue plan to coordinate hardware and software upgrades. I was in charge of developing a research and evaluation team where I was charged with designing and overseeing a complete rebuild of the agency's outcome tracking database. I also developed the agency's theory of change and program-specific logic models for all of our programs, our continuum of care. I have a lifetime of working in the public policy arena. I have strong leadership skills. I'm strategic, I'm efficient, and I know my way around a revenue and expense sheet. I'm a good communicator. I've been told I'm a great motivator and mentor, and I want to be a team player on the Braintree Town Council.
All right, thank you. Okay, and I'm going to switch for the questions, who goes first and second. So this first question, I'm going to start with Elizabeth and then move on to Tom. So question 1, Braintree is coming off a year of revenue shortfalls, and the town's rainy day account is significantly below recommended levels. This means there's little to no money to supplement the operating budget used to fund schools, improvements to town buildings, including infrastructure, and other town services. Given this information, how would you propose that Braintree grow its income?
Well, I've been really intrigued and interested by many of the views and ideas that have been shared here. I think that for me, it comes down to, are we going to worry about this 1 year at a time indefinitely, or are we going to have a big picture plan? I I feel as though we've been playing whack-a-mole in this town, where there's a problem here and we triage, and then there's a problem over here and we run to that. And I don't think that's been effective. I don't think it's allowed us to make good investments in our infrastructure. It hasn't allowed us to build strong and vibrant systems that can withstand issues like what we've just been through with the pandemic. So for me, spending, I think, has to be part of a shared, unified vision. It has to be part of a plan. The community has to be on the same page. We need to have some common ground with our priorities. We need to know why we're making, if we choose to make sacrifices now, if we choose those various revenue streams, there are revenue options that are available to us, whether it's a budget override, a debt exclusion, changes on our split tax rate. Yes, these are tools, these are options, but without having a vision as to where we're going, where we're going to be 5 years, 10 years, then it's hard to build trust and faith into moving funds around and making those difficult decisions. The community has to be part of that process, has to be on board with that process.
Okay, thank you. And Tom?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. All right, Braintree is coming off a year of revenue shortfalls, and the town's rainy day account is significantly below recommended levels. This means there is little to no money to supplement the operating budget used to fund schools, improvements to town buildings and other infrastructure, and provide town services. Given this information, how would you propose that Braintree grow its income?
Thank you. First off, I'll just start by saying, in order to supplement your budget, you need to have economic development. In order to have economic development, the town needs to come up with a revised master plan. We've always had strong budget management. And with COVID, this current fiscal year, it was the first time in the new form of government that we've had to lay off teachers. I was surprised that nobody on the current council questioned if buses weren't being used, bus drivers weren't working, where are the savings? What do we do? What did the school department do with those savings? I would ask for a spending audit of the school department budget just to see where that went, where those monies went. Also, as I stated, economic development. I'm sure we'll get into that down the line, but that's one of the most important things in order to gain a revenue stream in the town. As for the town budget, as you know, a good deal of the budgets are already in place with the labor agreements. So we know we have minimal amounts to spare, so to speak. When I left 2 years ago, they left the town with $8 million in the rainy day fund. I don't know where that number is now. I know it's not close to 8 million, if it's even $1 million right now. But I think we need to be held more accountable for the monies that we spend, and we have to do the best we can. There are grant options out there that we should be going after, we could be going after. And, I feel with all of those, we will be in, and if we continue to maintain the services at a reasonable cost, we'll be able to build our budget up in the coming years. Thanks.
Thank you. And move into question 2. And Tom, you mentioned the master plan and one of your answers, and you're the first one to answer this question. And then Elizabeth will go second. So question 2. In April 2019, Town Council voted for a resolution seeking updates to the town master plan before rewriting Braintree's zoning ordinance. The master plan process was stalled during the 2019 local elections, the start of the pandemic in 2020, and most recently in 2021, the failure of any consultants to bid on the request for proposals to work on the master plan. Given this information, would you support any zoning changes prior to completion of the master plan? And if so, what type of updates?
I think it's essential that we change the zoning laws. We can't wait for the master plan to be updated. As you stated, it was out there in 2019. I do feel as though we should have taken it in pieces. We shouldn't have taken the whole master plan at once. We should have started with our neighborhoods so that we can protect our neighborhoods, to keep them as neighborhoods. And then we could have gone down the line as to what we want to tackle next. Having said that, we could change, like I said earlier, we need economic development. We need to have the right zoning in the right places to protect ourselves. We don't want to look like our surrounding communities where you're seeing high-rise apartment buildings, lots of housing, no commercial development. These aren't the things we want. We don't want those types of structures here in this town. We want to keep it brick and mortar if we can, and keep our neighborhoods as they are.
Okay, thank you. And Elizabeth?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah,
for me,
sorry, I
please?
meant to offer that. So, okay, in April of 2019, Town Council voted for a resolution seeking updates to the town master plan before rewriting Braintree's zoning ordinance. The master plan process was then stalled during the 2019 local elections, the start of the pandemic in 2020, and in 2021, the failure of any consultants to bid on the proposal to help write the master plan. So given this, would you support any zoning changes prior to the master plan completion? And if so, what type?
So answering a hypothetical in an absolute is not something that I'm all that comfortable with. What I will say is that, as I mentioned before, having this whack-a-mole, well, we're not going to make any changes except for this change in this neighborhood, and we're not going to change anything because we're waiting for a plan, except for this potential development over here. I think it's unfair. It sends mixed messages. It is not getting everybody's input. So then what do we do? I look at possibilities. To say that the master plan stalled because of the pandemic is, we all lived through it. I get it. But also where I live, they built a compressor station during the pandemic as well. Life continued to happen in many communities. There are things there are situations that continued. People had to figure out ways to make it. Many people continued working. Many people are frontline employees. And so the idea that it stalled because of COVID, I don't think it's that difficult to provide the leadership that could keep something like that moving. So I guess that for me, the master plan is key. And even if it was to take some of the plans that already exist, I mentioned the other night, there's an open space plan from 2018. Has anybody cracked it open? There is a lot of work that is happening, including by the master plan steering committee, including putting together the RFP. There's work that's happening and it needs to continue. The town seems to have budget items for consultants and to bring people in. I'm not sure why this didn't attract the consultants or the team, but I think that part of that is because Braintree is a place where there are a lot of things that happen in reaction to specific steps that have been taken. So does somebody want to get involved in a town that is known for potentially approving something and then finding out another piece of information? I think it's a little bit sloppy. I think it's not productive, and I think it's very confusing and hard to follow. So to say, should we approve this before we get to that other point? I can't say that that's a logical way that I would want to start out my time in town council.
Thank you. All right, and question 3, we'll start with you, Elizabeth, on this one. So in District 3, There are many buildings that are vacant or otherwise run down and underutilized on Quincy Ave, otherwise known as Route 53. What ideas do you feel would be appropriate to boost economic development of this section of Braintree?
Yeah, Quincy Ave is turning into, and the auto mile, that Cork has expanded, and there's major shipping that's coming in. We've got all of those toxic polluters that are lined up and down. And then we've got, barely hanging on a couple of gas stations. We have a new veterinary clinic, which is fantastic. We have a couple of restaurants, but a lot of empty storefronts. There are real concerns because each time one of those properties becomes available, it seems to be built onto the industry that's here. And what's resulting is this entire community of East Braintree, slowly we're being squeezed out to the coast, but the coast is crumbling up to where we live. This is not a sustainable situation. This is not a healthy way to live. This is frankly fairly terrifying. Building back Quincy Ave and building back this community takes absolute hard work, absolute outreach and organization. It means supporting and participating in the civic community, the civic associations that are happening. It means having the town not do things like what recently happened with, a wildflower garden that was hacked away in Watson Park. We have fought very hard to maintain what we have. And frankly, it's exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting. And so looking at strengthening Quincy Ave, beautifying Quincy Ave, looking at green development, for Cork to have all of that property. Imagine if Cork looked at ways to make their buildings more eco-friendly. What if they partnered with the town? There's money for that. There is opportunity for that. There's expertise to be able to do that. So there are a number of ways to I think, to work with these kinds of companies, to work with town resources, and to look at ways that we can maintain, beautify, and prevent any more erosion. And the other thing too is that when you look at some of the small businesses, some of them, they're the ones that many of them have not made it back after COVID, but others, they've been standing open for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, and they're a blight. They're an eyesore. I've been writing letters about a few places on Quincy Ave for years. I don't understand why the town says that there's nothing that can be done. It's dirty. It's an eyesore. It contributes to blight, and that doesn't help a customer base. That doesn't bring people in who want to park and shop and enjoy this particular neighborhood. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. And Tom, just let me know if you want me to repeat the question.
No, I'm good. Similar to what my opponent has said, on Quincy Ave, it's tough. I know of a few people who have been interested in some vacant properties, but unfortunately, in this real estate period, the asking prices just don't make it worthwhile for anyone to purchase and redevelop a piece of property. I do want to say that I would support the blighted resolution that's in front of the council currently. We do know that there are some stores on Quincy Avenue that could use a refresher. Unfortunately, store owners, property owners in the town have rights. It could take a lengthy battle in court to get them to make changes. Speaking of, the Cork properties, again, some of those were blighted areas that now is going to create tax revenue for the town, and they're all state-of-the-art facilities. Do I want to see Cork on the entire length of Quincy Ave? No, but we can work with people to see that we get some, we have there's a couple of restaurants that are vacant on Quincy Ave. If we could just get somebody in there who'd be willing to use that space for a restaurant, and how we could support that person would be a great thing. I would honestly, I've heard that there's a potential that Route 53 or Quincy Ave will be one lane in each direction. I think that might help the area. Obviously, it would cut down on pollutants. We could make it, we also, traffic enforcement, we need that in that area. It's sometimes it's life or death trying to cross Quincy Ave. So, this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. We need to identify potential buyers of properties, work with them. The town is really, with some of these businesses, they don't have the best reputation. Businesses will say it's tough sometimes to work with the town. I think we need to shed that image and work hand in hand with these people who are willing to invest in this town. So this isn't something that's going to happen overnight, but I'd be willing to work with anybody who would want to come into the town, whether, for a small business, whether it be a restaurant or a specialty shop. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And we'll do one last question and then the closing. So this question, Tom, we'll start with you. Question 4. Real estate taxes make up a majority of Braintree's revenue. Braintree has a split tax rate, which means that commercial property owners have a tax rate more than twice as high as the residential tax rate, essentially doubling the tax bill for commercial properties versus residential properties with the same value. Do you believe that the tax rate structure is appropriate, too high, or too low?
I think it's appropriate because, as you know, a third of the tax base comes from the large commercial base that we have in town. And this helps us keep the residential rates lower for our residents. Also, I feel as though we have a competitive tax rate for our commercial partners. And with our own electric plant with Beld and the water and sewer being from Braintree, I think we are very attractive for businesses to work in this town. And I always have and always will support the split tax rate.
Thank you. And Elizabeth?
We have a commercial base that is in transition. And what I think were huge advantages for national retail locations, being located on a highway, having, so many roads lead there, that has been a great benefit to Braintree. But that base is changing. And there are, there are many developers who feel like the advantages that Braintree once offered in this new way, in this new world, this new post-COVID world, now they might be some disadvantages. They're no longer seeing their profit centers located here, and we're seeing them pack up and go. We need a strategy for retaining that kind of commercial base, for sure. We also need to look at how we remain competitive. And so what kind of a commercial base are we going to have? Can we attract the kind of commercial base that will attract new business, that can provide long-term job opportunities, that can provide benefits, that can, that can service some of our businesses? There are other smaller businesses that are feeder businesses, your office supplies, your local services, security, banks, restaurants, etc. So there's a whole tiered system that is that can work, and that the split tax rate, the business community might feel that that's worth it, and that they are getting such benefit from the other kinds of things we have to offer in Braintree. But I think there's also the perception that because we have the mall and because we have these places that we're fine and we can keep this low tax rate. And the fact is, somebody's got to pay the bills. And if we all want to live here and work here and thrive here and play and retire and eat good meals and not sit in traffic and not have our schools crumble, then we all need to pay into this. And, in terms of whether that split rate, I know it's almost double. I don't know that that is something that we could certainly, I don't see us increasing the commercial industrial rate. It wouldn't make any sense. I do think that we may need to look at what our property tax rates are. I don't know what that magic or what that formula is going to be. But the fact is that when we want certain things and we have a plan, then we all know where we're going, and we can develop a blueprint to get there and to make those changes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you both. So that was the last question I'm going to ask. And now if we can have a short closing. We did have a coin flip at the beginning. So Elizabeth will go last and Tom will go first. And so Tom, if you want to start with your closing, please.
Thanks. First, I just want to thank the Chamber for hosting the event this afternoon. One thing I will say is that without economic development, we have no growth in the town. The issues facing our public buildings need economic development to support what we need to do for our buildings. We need to solve the ongoing parking issues in our squares and in the landing. As I said, we also need to, the way we treat businesses in town, and let them know that we are willing to work with them. I've worked in the past with the Braintree Chamber and the South Shore Chamber, and if elected, I would continue to do so. Again, I would just like to thank everyone for their time this afternoon. And I look forward to speaking to you in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Elizabeth.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much, everyone. This has been a great opportunity. I have learned and I've enjoyed sharing. I think that probably my parting thought would be that what we need to make sure we avoid is this piecemeal development approach that seems to be based on who you know and who your attorney is. And that, I think, is part of where we probably come into some of the issues that we've been facing. In terms of my closing, I just want to say that this has been running for election has been an incredible opportunity to take the kinds of things that I've already been doing in my neighborhood, the information I've already been attempting to share, the efforts I've already been getting involved in, and to take it to a new level. And I have received support and interest from a broad array of families, of leaders, of other small business owners. I am also a small business owner here in Braintree, a micro business, as it were. I've received support from educators, from seniors, from elected officials, from advocates, retirees, future voters, professionals, homeowners, renters, old Braintree, new Braintree. We all need to have a voice. We all need to be included in these conversations, in the meetings, in the minutes, in the notifications of meetings. We need to we need to use that excellent venue that we have, that entree that we have in a small town. That's the beauty of it. We can get to a meeting at town hall. We can get to an organization. We can work with other people and we can make it all happen. And so my vision is to be able to be at the table, to look at the kinds of questions that came up today and the kinds of questions that are facing the town, and to be able to make sure that we all have a voice and that we also have some deadlines and some plans and strategies to get there. So thank you all very much.
All right, and thank you. And thank you to everybody who joined us on the call and who will be watching the videos. Again, this was a Braintree Chamber chat with the candidates. I want to thank District 3, who just wrapped up, Thomas Bose and Elizabeth Maglio, candidates for the election November 2nd, and also the districts that we spoke with earlier, District 2, John Mulaney, Joe Reynolds, and Carol Ann Ricardo, and District 1, Councilor Julia Flaherty and Jody Killefer. The election, of course, is November 3rd. I ask you to get out and vote. November 2nd. Yes, thank you. That's what I meant to say. Don't go on the 3rd, go on the 2nd. The 3rd would be bad. So you can check us out, braintreechamber.com, our Facebook page. We'll be posting videos on our YouTube channel. I had put some of that information in the chat. And then also if you follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn, we'll have the information there also. I want to thank the Braintree Chamber sponsors. We are an affiliate of South Shore Chamber of Commerce, but we're funded by sponsors and members, and we're a volunteer-driven board in Braintree. So South Shore Bank, Beld, Vibrancy Communications, Toyota of Braintree, Liberty Bay Credit Union, Brewster Ambulance, and Quincy Credit Union not only sponsor with their funds, but also representatives of most of those companies are on our board and work to make events like this happen. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing how the rest of the election unfolds. All the best, everyone. Thank you.